After dark, baby.
Don't do it.
Uh, Jorginho.
I actually had nice things to say about Jorginho.
I do too. I always do, though. Nah, not always.
I was telling Matt one time when we were at Highbury, like, I wasn't originally a fan of Jorginho. Jorginho was just kind of like a neutral for me. But you hating him so much has made me support him.
So much.
Yes.
He does hate him. I don't hate anyone like that.
No, I think the only one that I hate like that is Alonso.
And I don't hate him like that.
Really?
Rob's getting there. No, I think, I mean, it's just not, he's just not the right man for the job, but I think he still does bring positives. I think he's still, I mean, he's proven it. And if you look at his season in full, he probably has 5 or 6 goals.
Something like that.
It's not a bad season.
No.
It's not a phenomenal season, of course, but it's not trash. But yeah, he does have some trash moments. I can't defend him religiously or he has earned his hatred. How's that?
That's fair. But yeah, I agree. I think Ram is getting into that territory though.
I want Ram gone. I don't fucking need to see him anymore.
I saw somebody post something to the effect of like, oh, well, if Ram had done that interview, you guys wouldn't be riding him as hard as you are. I don't know. He's still $100 million striker who's giving minimal efforts and has what, 4 goals this year?
5. I just looked it up. That's the only reason why I know. But yeah, you're spot on, man. If I might not be as like hateful towards him, but it's all attitude. It's what do you look like on the pitch, and he still doesn't look good on the pitch, and he still doesn't look like he cares. So,
right.
I mean, I feel like I just keep saying the same things over and over about him, but they're remain to be true, and he's still playing, and he still doesn't look like he wants to do anything.
All right, Matt. Speaking of saying the same thing over and over, Jorginho, go.
I was not impressed. I was not impressed with anything he did today. He occupied space. So when I was watching it, because I usually look at a couple specific things. First is Ram's movement. Second is what Jorginho does. I can't tell you how many times I saw him look for a pass, or at least look to receive a pass, and he was behind a defender. Like, he's literally behind a defender and asking for the ball. Like, no, move your ass, get your ass into space, do something, help out your defenders. And it wasn't until like somebody started pushing up on the defenders that he started to move. Second thing, his defense today, I didn't think was great at all. I think he was shoddy. He made half-ass challenges, and then the same thing we've always seen, he doesn't track back. He gave up a ball probably about just over the halfway line for Plymouth as they were attacking. Gave it up, didn't even bother to track back, just kind of jogged back. No, if you are going to be the captain of this team when Dave is off the pitch, you better bust your ass and get back. That's something that I constantly see out of him, and it annoys the shit out of me. He made a challenge late outside the box where he went for it, he missed it, and then he just stood there and waited to see what happened. No, get your ass back in there and help out where you can. I honestly think that people have figured him out, especially the officials. How many times does he go down on our side of the pitch just because he doesn't get rid of the ball quick enough, or or whatever the case is. He always has to try and play it out himself. Stop. You don't have the speed to do that. Kova and Conte are the only two that actually have the speed and the capability to do that. Jorginho looks for a foul. He goes down soft, and officials are like, no, get up. Like, we know what you're doing. Especially in this match where not a lot was getting called, at least in Chelsea's favor. Granted, a lot of it they were legitimate fouls, but I need more out of him. If you're going to be the Ballon d'Or, third place, whatever, which I don't even think that's a real thing anymore because it's FIFA that creates it. No, you have to do more. And right now, I'm not seeing that out of Jorginho. And we're talking about a League One side. You're telling me that you can't hang with a League One side. And you're the number 3 player in the world, according to FIFA. That's bad. I would have taken Saul over Jorginho this game. Go ahead,
Yeah.
throw the stats out.
No, I don't have stats. I don't have stats on this one. I agree. His defending was not up to the level that it usually is. And I think that you have, what's the opposite of rose tinted glasses? Black tinted glasses?
Shit tinted.
Yeah. I think you have brown tinted glasses in terms of Jorginho and his defending. I think he sticks out a leg and knocks balls like astray that most people do not. And he wasn't doing that. He wasn't disrupting passes against Plymouth Argyle. And you're right. He wasn't tracking back. This was not his best game. Maybe he was watching too much, NBA defense with Mason Mount at the Knicks game. But in terms of one thing that you've been ripping him on is the back passes. It's Michael Bradley too much. He was looking forward a lot. I counted in my notebook the amount of times that he looked forward to pass. And it was, let's see.
He brought his own stats, Matt.
Yeah. It's not 9 times. 9 times. He didn't always necessarily do it because if you look forward and you see Rom just standing there with his fucking cement shoes, why are you going to give him the ball?
I agree.
But he was at least looking to go forward. And he took a couple cracks at goal that were not far away.
One especially.
Offensively, he was very productive. It was like Maurizio Sarri, Jorginho.
Right. When was the last time we saw? So I want to make this very clear. I was not upset at the fact that he was looking upfield. I didn't even mention side passes, back passes, things like that. I was just talking about the fact that he didn't get open for his defenders. He's supposed to be the outlet, right? He's supposed to be the one to create, make things happen. He wasn't doing that until pressures started coming up on the center backs. And then finally he started to move and get into an open space. It looked very slow and sluggish out of Jorginho. And usually he's in the right spot. He usually is. He usually has a clear path. Anybody can pass him the ball. Against a League One side, and you're not doing that, it's pretty easy to figure out, right? If you look at our system, it's pretty easy to figure out. We're not going to hit a ton of long balls. If we do, they're going to be to switch to run a play, right? We're going left to right, right to left. If you shut down access to Jorginho, you pretty much can dominate us. I think we've become so reliant on him to be able to create and do all these different things that it's hurting us. On the flip side, that's where I look at somebody like Kova. He'll get into those spaces. He'll make those runs. He was making a run to track down a ball that everybody knew that the keeper was going to get or at least clear. he made probably a 70-yard run in like the 103rd minute. He was still hauling ass, even though he knew that he wasn't going to get there. I just don't like the work rate as it relates to overall offensive and defensive. That part I do not like.
Yeah, and again, I wasn't arguing his defense or his work rate in this one. It wasn't good. It wasn't his best match, but for a lot of guys, it wasn't their best match. There's a lot of
what was he on? Who scored? What was his rating?
I don't know. I don't have who scored up anymore. Parker?
I don't either. Took it down.
But
it's mid sevens maybe. I don't know.
The comparison the comparison with Kova, it's apples to oranges to me, because while yes, they're both central midfielders, they play two different positions in the system. Jorginho is the pivot. Kovacic is the box to box. So yeah, Kovacic, you're going to see work rate out the wazoo with him, because that's his job. But it's not Jorginho's job. Jorginho's job again is the Alex Smith, the game manager. And yes, he did not do a great job getting into open positions. And again, his work rate, his defense was not great in this one. I'm not arguing that. But I don't think Kova would be a good pivot if we're going to make it an apples to apples comparison. It doesn't play to Kova's strengths. Kova's strengths is to run at the defense, to make his own lanes, to do that. Jorginho is more distributing, and that's his role in the team. So I think when you're looking at comparisons to Jorginho in the squad, I think Saul is the only one that you could really compare him to. And when Saul came on and it was Saul and Jorginho back there, it was like, oh my God, what the fuck is going on right now? This is
and we've talked about that, having two of the same people at the same time. I would have in that scenario, if you're going to leave Jorginho on, I didn't look at I'm sure you guys sent out the team sheet, but I didn't look at it. Was Ross on the bench? I would have put Ross in instead.
Almost positive he was.
I honestly would have put Ross in instead. You need somebody who's going to attack, and then you let Jorginho kind of lay back and do his thing. Also, whoscored.com. Jorginho was a 6'8". Saul was a 6'6".
Yeah, again, Jorginho did not have a great game.
The thing is, he hasn't had a lot of great games lately. He really hasn't. And that's the biggest thing that bothers me, is because if we're putting him on this high of a pedestal, he's got to perform every single match. Granted, you can have a couple bad matches. I get that. Like, nobody's perfect. We know that. But if you're going to be this person, you have to create lanes. And he did not do that against a League One side. And that bothers me.
Who's putting him on the pedestal?
You.
FIFA.
Right, but it doesn't matter what I think. I've told you before, and I was telling Parker this, but I'm Jorginho neutral. It's only because you attack him so hard that I come to his defense. But
and I have too when he has good games, like when he is the number 3 player in the world, I definitely come to his defense, and I will say, yes, Jorginho had a great game. He was doing a lot of things positive. But that's usually Premier League teams. It's a League One side, and you're telling me you can't be an outlet? You can't find space against that team? Stop. There's no reason for that to happen. And he's looking around and trying to dictate, well, you need to go here, you need to go there. You're not even open. And people are relying on you to be the distributor. And you can't even get open, or you're not in the right spot. So what are we supposed to do? And he's trying to go around and tell everybody where they're supposed to go. He to me, I don't want to say he looked lost, but he looked out of sorts. Like, he didn't know where to be in that 4-3-3 system. That to me is what it looked like.
Yeah, possibly. Jorginho to me, I think we made this comparison a long fucking time ago, but I think it's worth bringing up again. Jorginho to me is a lineman in football, where you only hear about him when he screws up or when he doesn't do his job, or and so when he has a great game, we don't talk about it because Mason Mount scored 2 goals and Callum Hudson-Odoi had one, and so they're man of the match. It's not Jorginho, but it's because of a lot of the things he did that helped get the team to that point. So I think he's had great games. We just don't give him the credit, and he doesn't get the credit. And I think he's fine with not getting the credit because he does a lot of the things behind the scenes. And we've all, seen this in other sports and seen it where it's not the glory position, and that's okay. Like when a lineman does his job, he doesn't get the credit. It's he was blocking for Aaron Rodgers, who had time in the pocket to move around and make a spectacular throw happen, and Devontae Adams goes up and gets it. But none of that can happen unless the lineman does his fucking job. So that's the only like real parallel I can draw with them. And I think when you look, I've seen it a couple of times where people get asked who don't you want to play against, or who's one of the players you rate the highest, or things like that. When his peers talk about him in super high regard, that to me tells me everything that I need to know as a fan, where I'm too stupid to know who's the guy that does all of those things behind the scenes. Never really played competitive soccer in my life, so I don't know those things, but they do. And if they're rating him highly, then I have to take that for something. Again, it's to Collins's point, it's hard to defend a guy when he doesn't have his best game. Not defending him, but as a player and a Chelsea player this season, I think he's more valuable than you give him credit for, Matt. I think he does more things than you give him credit for, and that's okay. But I think he deserves some of that credit.
And that's fair. And you guys are probably right. I have the brown glasses on when I look at Jorginho. I just, and I understand there has to be some sort of distribution when you're running the formations that we do and the style of play that we have. I get that. Everybody needs their link up person, right? Everybody needs that main center point. And I understand the side passes and the back passes because everybody's going to come to you, and then that frees up a different option, and then you can go back and then kind of reset and move things around. I understand all that. I just don't like the way that he's always, how do I want to say this? The way that he's always kind of looking to be treated like he's the number 3 player in the world. That should have been a foul on me. No, you're at your own 18-yard box trying to just draw a foul, and it was soft, and the official bailed you out. He had a few clearances that went straight to a Plymouth defender when they were already pressing high up. Like, that's just stuff you don't do. And to me, somebody of his caliber, of his quality, I expect more out of him. I'm not saying sell him. I want to be clear about that. I'm not saying sell him. I'm just saying over the last probably month, we've seen a bit of a decline in I think his output. I just think that teams have kind of figured out that he's the linchpin that makes things work, that makes things happen. And if you shut him down, then you can kind of do whatever you want with Chelsea. It's kind of like a box and one in NBA, right? You have 4 people running a zone, then you have one person playing man to man. If you run, a box and 9, right? And then you just keep one person attached to Jorginho, you can probably shut down Chelsea pretty quick. It's just a lot of faith in one player.
I think sell Jorginho might be not a bad thing to do, actually. And for all parties involved, at the end of the season, he might get real good value for him. It might be the famous quote, one year too soon and not 1 year too late, or whatever. And you might get real good market value for him. He still has a couple of good years left in him, but you might see him to where he go back to Italy or go somewhere where he really does want to end his career and kind of have his swan song on the end on his way out. I think if for all parties involved, it actually could be a fairly good move. As much as I defend the guy, I think that might be the situation that happens. So I say that pretty sheepishly and tongue in cheek.
Parks,
Well,
I think you're looking for buy low, sell high.
I 100% think he's gone in summer. He's out of contract at the end of next year. So you're going to have to move him. You don't want another situation where you're having to push it late. And B, if the club really do want Declan Rice or Aurelien Tchouameni, you're going to have to raise funds somehow because we fucked ourselves over with this Rom signing. It's hard to make up $100 million with financial fair play. So
do we have to sign anybody?
Yes.
Eventually.
You over the next 2.5 years, you have, I think I saw today, it was 13 players with contracts expiring.
Okay. So with that, Collins, I'm sure you can find a list, but with the coming back of my boy, Billy G, with Conor Gallagher, like, do you think that they can be in that position? I mean, we saw what, granted, it was a very small amount of his work, but Billy G last year against Liverpool, the boy held his own and then some. Do you think he could fit that role of being that more central defensive midfielder and then letting Kova, Conte, Gallagher, letting them kind of do their thing? Do you think that Billy could essentially be an heir to that throne? And then that way you don't have to go out and buy somebody, because we all know Declan Rice is going to be expensive as hell.
I think you have to go out and buy somebody. Billy Gilmour is, and we've had our complaints about it, but he is in and out of a shitty Norwich team.
Yep.
Conor Gallagher is playing great for Palace, but at the end of the day, it's Palace. How are you going to do on those European nights? How are you going to do in those cup finals? He hasn't faced that pressure yet. You need somebody, and I know Declan Rice plays for West Ham, so he doesn't necessarily have it either. But he scores a clutch goal this week in the FA Cup. He has European experience. Same with Tchouameni. I think you're going to need. You don't want to rely on three very young, very Chelsea inexperienced midfielders to take the place of, sorry, I've got the list up here. Jorginho gone summer 2023, Conte gone summer 2023, Kovacic summer 2024, Mason Mount summer 2024. Ideally, I think you bring back 2, maybe 3 of those guys, but everyone's always looking for a new adventure. Everybody's looking for next big contract. And we've seen that Roman isn't necessarily willing to make a Galacticos. He's not willing to pay crazy amounts of money for people. Just look at the Rudiger situation. So I think you have to go out and buy someone to complement what you have internally.
Out of our big 3, who are the 2 most important, do you think, out of our big 3? Kova, Conte, and Jorginho. If gun to your head, if all 3 of them are out of contract in summer, who do you re-sign?
Kova for sure. And then I think it's honestly a toss-up between the other 2. I think you can get good money for Jorginho or Conte. They both have their advantages and they both have their drawbacks. Jorginho, clearly a leader within the club. You're losing your captain this year in Dave. So you need somebody who can lead that squad and lead a very young squad. So I think Jorginho gives that. But like we talked about previously, at times will lack the work rate, at times will lack the defensive ability. But at the same time, N'Golo Kante is only going to play half a season, probably for the remainder of his career. So I hit Kova and then flip a coin for me.
Yeah, if you could guarantee me Conte would be healthy, then it's him for sure. But I think his age is getting up there. He's a runner by trade, where he's more prone and susceptible to injury, and he just can't do that as he ages. So it's going to be hard for him to keep up. So I give a very slight nod to Jorginho just for that sake. But I would rather see Conte there. There's no question about that.
Kova and Conte.
Yep. We all knew you were going to say that.
So again, to build off of that's fine if you want Kova and Conte out of those three in that situation. I get it 100%. But you're going to need some coverage there. Because again, Conte, there's no guarantee that he's going to play more than half the games in the season. So you want somebody who's experienced. And yes, again, I understand Gilmour and Gallagher have Premier League experience, but it's with mid-table to shitty clubs. And it doesn't feature those European nights, doesn't feature cup finals. So going out and getting a guy like Declan Rice, who is at his heart a Chelsea kid, came through the academy, or Tchouameni, who's got international experience with France and has honestly, our scouting department in France has been fantastic. And so if they trust the guy and they want to bring him in, perfect. I think it's a great move.
And so for that, I think you can almost run Conte kind of the same way you run Kepa, right? Or the same way that you would run Mendy, however you want to look at it. It can be you run Conte in your big games, your cup finals, cup semis, Champions League, Europe, all that stuff. And then you can run Billy G in the Premier League in the early rounds of the FA Cup and Carabao Cup. Like, if we're talking about if Conte can only play half a season, there's your half a season.
Yeah, it's just the thing I would worry about is just the continuity of the boys. You would want people to play a little bit more consistency when they're, a little bit more intricate of play. Goalie's a little bit more, you can kind of put it in and set it and forget it. I know there's a little bit of style difference, but the other thing I was thinking about is like if you slot Gallagher into our system, I don't know if he's a holding mid type player. I mean, I think he likes to get more advanced. And so in a 4-2-2-2, he would be in that second rung of twos. I think he would do pretty well there. But in sort of our, wing back system that we started the season off, I don't think Conor Gallagher has the same season he does, unless he's kind of playing up at the top. So I'm wondering how he translates as a Chelsea player. I really like what he's doing with Palace, but I don't know where he fits into our system. If our system's going to be changing, I don't know where he's going to be most involved and most impactful. And I don't think you can build a system around him either. So
let's say the system stays the same. I think he fits in as a Kovacic.
Yep.
So we've seen how reliable Kovacic is. Where you can't have two. I don't think you can have two of that same player on the pitch at the same time, especially because you have Mason Mount, who essentially is also doing that. Mm-hmm. So where does Gallagher play? I think the more important question is who fits in for that Conte Jorginho role. Is it Gilmour, or is it Ethan Ampadu, or is it a Declan Rice? Because that's Rice's natural position, and he's honestly probably the best in the Premier League at it.
So.
Fuck off. Get out of here.
And I'm out. See ya. I had to.
Yeah, that's fair. I think I think a year with Billy and Conte together, right? Because Billy would be training with Conte, learning a lot of that stuff. Maybe we sign Jorginho for 1 year, and then he gets to train and all that stuff. But you kind of mold Billy under that Jorginho type role. And that's saying that we don't sell him in the summer. But if you just sign him to like a 1 year or something like that, then he gets that experience. But at the same time, I think the biggest thing that we're forgetting is that they're both playing in the Premier League. It's not a slouch, right? Yeah, they play for shitty teams, which guess what? They probably have to do more work than they would be expected to do at Chelsea. Like, if you think about it, I mean, Conor Gallagher is carrying Palace on his back at this point.
I don't
Billy
think it's
Gilmour-
necessarily a who you're playing against thing. I think it's a pressure thing. There's a different pressure playing for Chelsea, playing for a consistent top four, playing for arguably top 5, top 10 biggest club in the world than there is playing for Palace. It's like when players in Major League Baseball, for example, let's go NBA. It's different playing for the Lakers or the Knicks, regardless of how good they are, than it is playing for the Bucks. Local media is a lot nicer to you. Fans are nicer to you. They're happy to just have somebody good there, right? And I think that's what you experience. And as soon as you get to Chelsea, I mean, God, just look at some of our players who we currently have here. Yeah, Timo came from a bigger club in Germany, but Leipzig they're not a world beater. I think in our attack, the only one who you could say came from like a big club is Rom, and he fucked it up. Like he fucked all that pressure up. And so I think honestly it's more about managing the collapse under pressure than it is managing the talent.
And my thing, what more pressure can you ask out of somebody who is 19 years old than to be thrown in a match and start against Liverpool? What more pressure is there? Fine, you can say City, but like, what else? Just to be kind of thrown in. I think he made maybe a handful of like 5-minute appearances.
Who are you talking about? Billy. Okay.
And all of a sudden you're like, yeah, you're going to start today against Liverpool. Best of luck. And he had a man of the match performance. So I don't think pressure is really an issue for him. To me, it seems like with who we had this year, we didn't have much of a choice but to loan him, because I don't think he would have really seen the pitch. I really don't. So he would just kind of been wasted space on the bench, kind of like Ross. Would I have had Ross or Billy? I would have probably taken Ross under the assumption that Saul was not going to be a pile of garbage his first 3 months at the club. And I think that's the other thing is, don't we have a loan option or a loan to buy option on Saul?
No.
Oh, it's just straight loan?
Yeah.
Thought we have loan to buy.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, I thought we did too. I thought it was a Kova-esque loan, but
no. Marina reports came up 2 weeks ago. Marina asked Atletico for a price, and Atletico said, no, we're just going to take him back.
All right, then. So, I mean, don't get me wrong. I let me be clear about this. I'm very high on Declan Rice. I'm a big fan of him. The only problem is, who else are you going to get rid of? Jorginho alone isn't going to do that. If you get rid of Jorginho and Conte, then you're losing a shit ton of support and defensive structure around your team.
Oh, see, I don't think the shakeup is coming in the midfield. I think one of the two, Conte or Jorginho, goes because they're going to be out of contract. They're 30. We know the club's policy with 30 and older 1-year contracts. I don't think Jorginho is going to bite on that. I don't think he's going to bite on a 1-year deal. Conte might, because Conte is such a lovable person. But I think the shakeup is going to come in the attack. I think Pulisic might be gone. I think Timo might be gone. Ziyech might be gone.
Kai.
Kai, Rom. Really, anyone in that attack is pretty much fair game, with the exception of Mason Mount. And then you're going to sell Kepa. So the money's going to be there for Rice plus some.
Okay, so let me ask this question then: who the fuck are you going to pass the ball to? You're going to
buy someone.
Oh yeah, we saw how well that works out.
Jovic.
So you're telling me we're going to restructure our front line with a bunch of people that haven't played together and expect them just to gel right at the beginning of the season next year?
Yeah, that's what we did the last time with this group.
So what's the harm of letting Billy G get his time out there? What's the harm of Connor getting his time out there? Like if we're talking about switching the attack, what's the fucking difference?
I'm not saying they're not going to play. I'm just saying you're not going to see a starting midfield of Billy and Connor.
You're not going to see a productive starting front line, just like you really aren't right now.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's why you're shaking up the front line, because
so
they can't
about
produce.
A full rebuild.
Project rebuild.
Yep.
You're talking about a full rebuild.
I'm not talking about a full rebuild. I'm saying really anyone in that front attack is fair game to be sold, and probably 2 or 3 of them will be.
And that'll fund the purchase of a midfielder.
Yeah, of a Declan Rice, probably of a back. I don't think you get a backup keeper because Bettinelli's probably then your number 2. So yeah, probably Declan Rice, cheap young winger, and maybe a backup striker for Rom.
Okay, well, you still need wings if you're talking about Timo, Ziyech, Kai. Who's going to be your backup striker if we do end up selling Rom and Kai? Besides Harvey Vale,
then it's Timo
and Harvey Vale.
Harvey Vale's a midfielder.
No, he's played 7 different positions.
Okay. Harvey Vale for the PL2 team has played 19 games as an attacking midfielder.
He's also played left back, left wing, right wing.
It's Lewis Hall.
No, that's Harvey. Although I do love me some Lewis Hall. Bring him in as a left back behind Chills. Get Alonso the fuck out of here.
So circling all the way back around here, what I'm getting at is there's no way at Chelsea that they're going to rely on the youth and the loan army to make up for the mistakes of this year's squad. They're not going to allow Billy G and Connor to run the midfield. They're not going to rely on Harvey Vale, Lewis Hall, Sunsip Bell in attack. Like, it's Chelsea. They're going to
I wouldn't rely on
they're going to
Sunsip
sell
Bell
the dead
in
weight,
attack.
and they're going to go out and buy. It's what happens.
Right, but I'm just trying to figure out, like, you're talking about getting rid of 3 defensive or 3 offensive players, and keep in mind, Rudiger, we don't know where he's going to be at. Christensen, he hasn't signed yet.
Yeah.
So, and you have Thiago Silva, you have Malang Sarr, you have Trev. Okay, who else do you have? So you're gonna have to.
I'm telling you right now that Levi Colwell is going to play a significant role in the defense next year.
No, we can't trust the youth. We can't trust the youth. Not this early. Oh no, we can't do it.
Yeah, I'm not talking about a defense made up solely of 19-year-olds.
And I'm talking about having Kova and one other person. I'm not talking about Billy G and Connor Gallagher running the whole thing.
Okay.
I'm talking about one person to replace Jorginho. And I think Billy G can do that. Then you also have Kova, who does the work of about 2.5 people.
I'm gonna go on record here. It is February 6th. It is Pod After Dark, after their 23rd episode. I don't think Billy G is going to be in our squad. I think he's getting loaned out again next year.
How dare you?
Just my prediction.
No, I agree.
I don't think he's even going to be in the squad. I think they're going to look to. I don't know if they're going to find a different Premier League club to loan him to, or if they're going to send him to a different league. But I don't think he's going to play for Chelsea next year. I think he needs another year. Matt, I was gonna bring this up earlier when you were talking about him, and I don't want to dispute your point because he came in against Liverpool and put in a super solid performance. So hats off to him for that. But at the same time, there is something to just kind of being the young guy where there's not much expectations for you. When the expectations are on your shoulders week in and week out and playing every 3 days, that's a different level of expectations. It's not like pressure necessarily. It's not the same word, but it is a different level of professionalism and quality and excellence that Chelsea kind of expects out of you. And where a guy like Jorginho, who is literally world class, is under a microscope, and every single error that he makes gets, super analyzed, right? And so, I mean, that's what we do with everybody. I mean, we're super analyzing Ron, we're super analyzing Timo and all these guys, right? Because they are under the fucking microscope. So can he deal with that? Like, maybe. It's just untested at this point for me, and I just don't know if he has that mental capability at this stage. My gut tells me he's a year too young to be that critical of a role, especially if we stay systems. Now, if we change systems and the pressure's off it a little bit, I think that he actually could do really well. But in that two holding midfield role, it's too important. We saw it earlier in the season when we didn't have Conte and Jorginho for a little bit. Would have like a Kova and like a
Ross Barkley.
Ruben Loftus-Cheek, right? Who we all really like. But when it's two guys in there that just aren't like at that super level, then our system breaks down and we look like shit. And the position is just too important for it. And I think I'm trying to sit back and analyze this conversation between you guys. I think that's what Collins is getting at with, you can't just rely on those two guys that are that young and inexperienced to run it. You need some stability in there and to play around it. Now, Chelsea's learned to trust the youth more this year than ever, and I love that trend, and I hope that trend continues. Historically, they haven't, and I think they're moving in the right direction, but it has to be this unique mix of, we still need to go out and buy and still get those like really quality players who have proven themselves to play week in, week out, every third day kind of players, and get them to kind of cement in where we have a couple of gaps.
And I guess Parker, I think you're right. Maybe I wasn't explaining that the best. So let me use Callum Hudson-Odoi as an analogy. We talked about him earlier. I don't think any of us would debate Callum Hudson-Odoi having talent. Like, he 100% has skill. He has talent. Is he right for Chelsea? Is, at 21, does he fit the system? Is he a regular everyday starter? Again, has the talent, but needs to build in everything else. I don't think that he does well under pressure. I don't think, we saw it against Plymouth where he just dribbles the ball out of bounds after being wide open for 30 twice. Yeah, thank you, Parker. Dribbles the ball out of bounds for being open for 30, 40 yards. I think it takes time to develop, and especially in Billy Gilmour's situation where he's had such a shitty loan through maybe not necessarily his fault. Probably needs another year to develop. Conor Gallagher probably gets into the squad, but again, I don't think you're going to play him and Kova at the same time. But I think you want Kova out there. So it's like, then he is your Ruben Loftus-Cheek. He's your fourth option off the bench, maybe fifth. I think you need, honestly, I think if you're looking at the loan army, I think Ethan Ampadu, who's having a sneaky good season in Italy right now, and has been a holding mid for years and years and years and years now. I think he's probably your option if you're looking at the loan army to fill in that holding mid position.
When was the last time Ampadu played for us? It was because I remember he's suited up for us before, right?
2 years ago.
Yeah, it's two or three, something like that.
No, I agree. They're all valid points. I'll make sure that next year I don't buy a Billy G jersey. Just because I have a very good track record of buying jerseys of players and then they're either sold or they retire or they go on loan. Like Drogba, Michi, Billy G.
So do everyone a favor and buy a Big Rom jersey.
No,
Saul.
Yeah.
Jorginho.
Kappa.
Nope, Jorginho. Buying a Jorginho jersey.
If you
Marcus
buy a
Alonso.
I think you should buy a Jorginho jersey, Matt.
I'm gonna buy the t-shirt jersey.
What about Danny Drinks?
Well, if he's done beating up fucking 19-year-olds, and yeah, he'll be fine.
There you go. There's your option for a holding midfielder, Danny Drinkwater.
Get out of here.
Shiv and all.
Ethan Ampadu had one appearance for Chelsea in 2017.
Was it that long ago? Huh. What about, I have our center back problem solved. Matt Miazga.
Bring him on.
Yep. Done deal. He'll just show everybody how much taller he is than everybody else.
Yeah, and I've got our goal scoring problem solved by signing Diego Costa.
Thank you.
On a free transfer.
For about £5 and a bag of weed.
There's got to be something like that the public doesn't know about him that no one has picked him up. Maybe he's about to go to court or something for stabbing somebody. I don't know, but there's something weird there where no one in the world has picked up Diego Costa.
Same with Hulk. He's got to marry his niece's sister again, or whatever he did. He did something like he married somebody and then then he married the wife's niece or something like that, or the wife's sister, like a year after. He did something like ridiculous like that.
Of course. Collins, I agree though, man. Something's got to be happening with him behind the scenes because he's too good. He's only 33. He's not 37. Like he's too good of a player to not be signed by a team. And I don't know this for a fact, but if a Mario Balotelli can be on a team and be called back to the Italy national team, if he can, I think he's got like a bigger ego and a worse temperament than Costa does, from like a toxicity in the locker room kind of a character. So I have to believe he's something's going on.
Thank you for bringing that up, Parker. Chiesa. We haven't talked about him lately.
He's hurt.
Towards ACL.
Well, I know he's hurt, but is that somebody that you think maybe you get rid of Timo? You get rid of maybe Pulisic or Cho in order to fund that? Because we know he's going to be around the 80 to 100 price range. Do you think that that's an option?
It's all dependent on how well he comes back from his injury. That's the biggest worry is how do you respond from an ACL? It's not a small injury, so it's if you could get him at a discount, like I think he'd be worth the roll of a dice. But because if his price goes down because of that, then maybe. I've always been high on him. I mean, that's well documented. So I would love to see him play for Chelsea. It's just I don't want to sign someone that's injury prone. We have too much of that already.
So switching gears to so Colin's my U.S. men's national team hot take.
Oh yeah.
Weston McKennie is more important to the men's national team than Christian Pulisic.
You said that, Matt. I don't think that's a hot take.
Yeah, I don't know how spicy that one is.
So, and the only reason why I say it is because everybody has been so reliant on Christian all these years. He's in a bad run of form at Chelsea. He is injured half the time. Watching the World Cup qualifiers, everything runs through Weston McKennie. And I don't know if that's a change in, just Weston's form. I don't know if that's a change in system. I don't know if we've just kind of given up on Christian. But to me, it seems like this team is now Weston McKennie's team over Christian Pulisic's team.
Yeah, I think the midfield is always the most important part of a team. Defense is defenders specialized in defense. Strikers and forwards are specialized in attacking. Midfielders have to do everything. Midfielders are the link. They have to defend. They have to attack. And McKennie excels at all of it. From very early on in Germany at Schalke, he was a guy who played he didn't have a role. He played everywhere. He was just kind of, what do you call it, an amoeba? Yeah, you can be molded into whatever you want. And I think now he's finally reaching a mature age where,
relatively,
yeah, but where he can be relied on. And honestly, with Berhalter ball, the midfield is always going to be the most important because it's just so fucking slow everywhere. And it's you got to have some creativity. You got to have something in the midfield. And yes, he's doing well at Juve as well, but it's focusing on U.S. national team. It's he almost has to be the focal point because the buildup is so slow. The passing is so slow. The movement is so slow that it's hard for Pulisic or Pepe or really any of the attackers to get involved. So of course it has to be McKennie.
Yeah. And I think Christian's just become a touch too one-dimensional in his kind of style of play. And he's just not as good. His form isn't there, so he can't take guys on one-on-one and make them miss and go around them. And when you can't do that, play doesn't get to go through you anymore. So he doesn't get to kind of be that focal point, like you said, Collins. He doesn't get to dictate as much on the pitch. And so, yeah, Weston has stepped into the role. And I mean, you could have made the argument. It would have been a much spicier argument, 12 months ago if you said Weston's more important to the team than Christian. But the argument could have been made 12 months ago, and now I think it's just kind of becoming a lot more apparent as Christian's form has dipped and Weston's really stepping up to help the team qualify now.
Yeah, and it's just something that I notice a lot more predominantly watching these. I only watched 2 of them, but over the last 3 games, it's something that I've noticed. It's almost kind of been thrown in your face, right? Where before, yeah, the argument could be made, but now it's almost no, it's full blown happening, and you see it watching what game was that? What game were we all chatting? Was that the
Canada game?
No, before that.
El Salvador.
Before it was El Salvador in Columbus.
Yep. Nobody was doing anything except for McKennie. Nobody was doing anything. There was no movement. And yeah, that goes down to Berhalter ball of slow play, which side note, that's kind of how I felt like Jorginho was today, or yesterday. But anyways, it just seems to me like McKinney is kind of like that Kovacic style player. He'll do it all, and I don't want to have to rely on just that individual to have to make plays and create space. Like Kova was doing majority of the work to open things up on the left-hand side against Plymouth. Sarr was getting up there a little bit. Cho had a couple good chances, and he was doing some positive things, but Kova was the one opening up everything. That ball is, 6 inches lower or 6 inches left or whatever. Like, he's got 2 goals, no problem. And they're spectacular goals.
Yeah.
But to me, it seems very reminiscent of Chelsea. Like, this isn't Jorginho's team anymore. He might be the captain, but it doesn't feel like it's his team like it did last year. And this year, it seems like it's more Kova's team, because Kova's going to be the one opening up and creating opportunities for everybody. Same way that Weston is doing that for the men's national team, at least in the 2 games out of the 3 that I saw over the international break.
Yeah, it's good. I hate Berhalter ball. It's just it's not good. It's so MLS-y, and honestly, we're gonna get destroyed at the World Cup.
Oh yeah, it's gonna be bad.
Yeah.
Provided that we make it there.
Yeah, that's true. But it's just like the system is so bad. It's slow. It's methodical in quotes. It's hard to watch, and it's sad because you're putting a shitty, inexperienced coach, an MLS coach who has a 500 record in just a couple seasons. You're putting him in charge of what many have said is the golden generation in U.S. soccer. We've got all these guys playing in Europe, but here we are still bringing guys in from MLS to fill out the roster, guys who are in their off season instead of guys who are mid-season in a World Cup qualifier. And it's all a money grab. And it's so sad because we're gonna waste this generation. Yeah, maybe they're a little young now to be like a golden generation. I think they're all like in their early 20s. So maybe next cycle will be like theirs. But this is wasted. This is terrible. And it's sad that the expectation is make it to the World Cup, and we'll see what happens.
So one person that I really love watching is Brendan Aronson. You want to talk about somebody that works? I was watching, this is whenever the last Champions League matches were, and he was plays for Leipzig, right?
Yep.
90th minute, he is still hauling ass to get back and also to get forward. That's what I want. Like, that's who I need on my national team. That's who I need starting on my national team. That's kind of somebody that I would be okay with at Chelsea. When you're talking about like a wing, like a left wing, like he seems almost the American version of Timo. He's got pace. The thing is, he can also take people one-on-one, where Timo, I don't trust him one-on-one. I don't trust his touch. He played that ball to himself and it went out of bounds. Like, you can't have that, especially when you come with that. And the thing is, you can get him real cheap because, nobody's going to want an American on a top Premier League team. We took a run at Christian Pulisic. it worked for about 4 weeks under Project Restart, and we really haven't seen too much of it lately. He's somebody that you could kind of take a gamble at for 10, 15 mil and just see what happens. So I would be okay with that. I mean, Chelsea also took a run at Miazga, and well, he hasn't suited up for Chelsea. So I don't know. Maybe it's just one of those things where, as much as we say this is the golden era of US football, it's still not. Like, if we can't produce something productive in the Premier League, I don't think we're there yet.
Yeah.
But we're getting there.
We've gotten better, but at the same time, everyone else has gotten better, which has been hard to keep up with in that sense. I kind of compare it to Belgium a few years ago. They were in their golden era, or maybe still are, probably still are in their golden era. And on the world stage, that's still not good enough to win a World Cup. That's still not. And they have guys who are far more dominant than the United States, obviously. But when they were all really young, they still made it to the World Cup and did well, and still, but even that they weren't. I think they got out in like the round of 8 or something that first time in the World Cup, and then they made it further the next time. I just say that because we're still very, very, very far away. We're still very much behind the pack in the World Cup or the global game, I should say. It's painfully obvious that when you struggle against teams in the CONCACAF qualifying, that the other teams are just going to be a leap in bounds better than that.
Like, when you're looking at teams, sorry, Collins, go ahead.
Well, using the Belgium example specifically, none of those guys early on, then still to this day, like, name a guy from the Belgian league who plays for the Belgian national team. They're very few and far between. The U.S. national team is consistently 50-50 MLS and overseas players. It boggles my mind. All of this is just a cash grab and a build up to the 2026 World Cup when we host. All of it is just a bit, because there's such a link between MLS and U.S. Soccer Federation. It's ridiculous. There's no logical reason why MLS guys should be starting over guys who are in season in Europe playing against top European players, as opposed to guys who are in the middle of their off season playing domestically in a inferior league.
Boom.
Yeah. And the other thing to add to that, actually 2 other things. One is it's all about the MLS and trying to promote their brand, right? Like DeAndre Yedlin, he's going to Inter Miami. Like, I'm pretty sure he already signed. He's going to Inter Miami. Like, that's where like outcasts kind of go to make a name for themselves and hope to get back, because they know that it's kind of a trash league and they can do what they want. Or they're just old and they can still keep playing for 3 years because the competition's not that good. Second thing is, if the MLS wants to succeed, you got to give me promotion relegation. You have to. They are constantly expanding one league, and that's it.
It's getting diluted.
You need some sort of system, like a pro rel style, where, all right, if you're shit this year, you go down, you got to work your way back up. That's how teams get better. You see that across all of Europe. And it makes the league better. You bring in better players, you get more cash revenue. It's just how it works. And we're still so far behind in that. we're still on this US style
Franchises.
of franchises and the US model of, you know, buying people on a contract or just a trade or whatever. And soccer doesn't work that way. Yeah, it works for the NBA, it works for the NFL, it works for baseball. Like, cool. That's not how world soccer works. You don't see that because you really don't hear about it like world baseball. You really don't hear or see a lot about that. NFL, that's specific to us. And then you look at the NBA. Again, same thing, but that's because we're the front runners of those sports. We're the follower when it comes to soccer. We have to adjust to what the world is doing. And right now we are not doing that. We're trying to play by our rules and it is not working. And that is going to lead to a consistent failure year in and year out.
Look at the last time. Well, the last time, it's the only time in our lifetime that the U.S. failed to make the World Cup. The last cycle. What happened prior to that? All those boys came home. Dempsey came home to Seattle. Michael Bradley, Josie to Toronto. MLS is a hindrance.
Mm-hmm.
But like I said, it's a cash grab. It's a big cash grab.
Yep.
It's I don't know. It's sad. If you want to grow the game, you need both the national team to succeed, or you need players playing against the best players in Europe, and you need MLS to succeed on top of that. So MLS to grow and develop players like FC Dallas has done, and then sell them overseas, and then bring them back into the fold with the national team, not with the inferior league. It's exactly, Parker, like you said with Belgium. I doubt the Belgian FA is like, yeah, come play in the Juniper League. Yeah, let's do that. No, Aiden Hazard isn't doing that. He's going to continue to ride the bench at Real Madrid because he's playing with the best of the best. It's good for the national team.
And I think the US does one thing well, which they've grown, is their coverage of the global game. You can watch La Liga matches, you can watch Bundesliga matches, you can watch Premier League matches. I think you can watch Ligue 1 matches if you want, but you can have access to these players now, and they do a pretty good job of it, better than they ever have in our lifetime, of having accessible TV programs where if you sign up for Paramount Plus or ESPN Plus or whatever it is, you can get these games, and it's easier than ever. And they focus on the American players on the US broadcasts. Like, they talk about Christian Pulisic every single week. And so that I feel like that's a hard part of doing all of this, is getting that exposure to those players when they play over in Europe. But we have that part down. Now you just have to kind of complete the process. Bring them home, have them play for the World Cup, send them back out, tell them to get better. I'm all potted out.